Okay, I think that's it. Yep, I think we're good. Smile, baby. Welcome to the channel, you smiling demons. I just watched Smile 2, the sequel to the unexpected horror smash hit Smile. Both were written and directed by Parker Finn. Smile 2 picks up where the last movie left off, and the curse of the smile has found its way to pop superstar Sky Riley, who is in the middle of trying to make a comeback after a serious career setback. I watched the first Smile for the first time 1 hour before the actual showing of Smile 2. Everything was basically as fresh as it could be for me. It's a solid 3 out of 5 movie. The premise seemed very similar to Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, so, I had my reservations about it. In the end, I was won over by the well-crafted jump scares, the tension that it built, the commentary about mental health and addressing your trauma. Also, riding the coattails of a genius marketing campaign to make 200 some million dollars at the box office, not too shabby. And look, I don't think Smile is any revolutionary film by any means. Give it a week or so, I don't think I would have thought about Smile. But Smile 2, oh ho ho, Smile 2 is going to stick with me for a hot minute. Smile 2 is definitely up there as one of my favorite horror movies of the year. So as you can see, I'm in a different shirt. While I do stand by everything I said in the review, I also recorded that review the night after I saw Smile 2. However, the more that I sit with this movie, the more I uncover about what I like about it. And it just so happens that the new things I discover are a separate perspective to what I say in the video. Smile 2 could be one of those rare movies where you could watch it with two different mindsets completely and then still fully enjoy it. In one mindset, you could completely sympathize with Sky, and then in another, you could completely hate Sky. And that plays into how the scares build onto one another and how they affect the plot going forward. So whenever you see me, maroon shirt, I will be building upon a separate perspective than what I have already laid out. It seemed better to just do a tack on versus do like a whole rework of the review. Okay, now back to me. I'm going to start quickly with the prologue. The prologue for this movie is one of the best movie openings of the entire year. It's a one-take action sequence that picks up from the week after the events of the first movie, and that's all I can tell you without getting into spoilers. Gosh dang it. The biggest compliment I can give this movie is Naomi Scott. Man, what happened to the girl I knew from Lemonade Mouth? She's so good! So Naomi Scott gets to shine as a singer, dancer, and actor in this movie, and it's not gratuitous like it can feel in the movie Trap. Naomi Scott is doing the absolute most. She's chugging Voss water, she's being beaten down by the demon and the delusions it's casting on her. Her screams sent shivers up my spine and down my arms, and then they have the audacity to remix her screams in the end credit music. And you leave the theater and you just hear screaming and bass, and it's fantastic. They don't let up in this movie.
You're so mean to me!
I have never felt a movie feel so mean-spirited to its protagonist in quite some time. Poor Sky Riley. She's just losing her mind, and then every scare is just more brutal than the last one. This movie is a little exhausting. I do want to highlight the other performances in this movie. Miles Gutierrez Riley, thank you for being the butt of so many people's disrespect, but I feel for you, dude. Lucas Gage looks like he's having the time of his life as Lewis, even though he's under duress all the time in the movie. Rosemary DeWitt and Dylan Galula play Naomi Scott's mother and ex-best friend respectively, and they both have the most to try and bounce off of Naomi Scott's manic acting. Yep, Maroon Kyle is back. Manic is putting it nicely. Rosemary DeWitt is playing momager, and so the classic trope of the mom manager cares more about the tour than her daughter's well-being, and she actually throws in a solid argument of, well, this is what you wanted. You wanted to rush back to the stage as quickly as you could. You wanted the obligations that you signed up for, and now hundreds of people and staff are dependent on you, and now thousands of fans are dependent on you. And as for Gemma, we all know there's a fallout in their friendship. They haven't talked for a year. Sky and Gemma got into a large argument, and the last thing recorded on the phone is "eat shit, bitch." But these two are apparently ride or dies. It could be safe to say that their relationship was strained before Sky became famous. I sympathized with Sky during my watch of Smile 2. So just because the seeds of doubt are so subtle, Sky may not have been fully put together before the curse ever put its hands on her. This movie, like the first movie, has a bunch of well crafted jump scares. Are some of these jump scares just sudden loud noises and screaming? Sure. But there's a few with some really good follow through. I personally have two rules for what makes a jump scare effective. The first one is a good jump scare should play effectively into what happens next. Just like how in movie musicals, people don't like it when you stop to play a song, no one likes it when you just try to scare a person and then it feels like nothing was rewarded afterward. So, a good example of follow through in this movie is the jump scare that involves Riley's backup dancers. The second rule that I have is knowing the balance of when to release tension and when not to release tension of a scare. And that's a tricky balance. There is a great example in this movie, and it involves a cell phone, and it just leads you on just enough so that when the scare happens, it catches you off guard when it's something a little bit different than what you first expected. The cinematography in this movie looks really, really good. I believe it's the same cinematographer as the first. They bring back the rotating cameras and the upside down shots to turn frowns upside down into smiles. I also really need to shout out this little girl in the trailer because in her moment in the movie, she owns it and she doesn't need to say a word. I also need to shout out Alfredo because he's Alfredo. He adds a couple of scenes of real tension in this movie. It's horrifying in so many ways.
Traumatized.
So as for the story of Smile 2, it does break down a lot like the first. I'm not going to lie. The basic premise of we see a horrific unaliving of a character, and then the demon breaks down the main character that witnessed that unaliving for the rest of the entire movie. There's much more scares in this movie than there were in the first. There's no doubt. And there's more times that I questioned reality in this movie. And boy, does this movie hate its protagonist. Sky is already dealing with her own trauma. I need to set this up for you. So she was caught in a horrific car accident that killed her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is played by Jack Nicholson's son, Ray Nicholson, and he has an endlessly creepy smile as well. Both of them were absolutely shit faced on liquor and drugs, and then they crash. So 1 year later, after her crash, she goes on Drew Barrymore's show and she's ready to make a comeback. She publicly announces her tour, she apologizes, and she promises to do better. And you see the actions that she's taken. She's downing Voss water as an alternative to drinking or taking drugs. She makes commitments for charity under her label's name. Her tour is going to provide so many people with jobs, and she's even trying to mend this friendship with Dylan Galula's character, Gemma. And through all of that, Sky is just being tormented and she's falling apart, and it's by something that she doesn't really understand. But she's just stressed out of her mind. I can't help but feel bad for her in the moment. It's me. Hi. Everything I just said is true. She is actively trying to fix herself, but more specifically, she's trying to fix her image. A big tell is whenever she is out and about and not with her team, she's in baggy clothes, she's in a jacket with a hood, she's trying to avoid the public eye, she's trying to avoid being recognized. She accepts this charity hosting gig because you can't get on someone's good side more than serving underprivileged children. She goes on Drew Barrymore's show, and it can be read as like a PR coverage kind of thing. You do see where she slips through the cracks in this image that she's trying to rebuild. She yells at her assistant Joshua at some point. She kind of throws a tantrum at her mom. She trauma dumps on Gemma, and she's only reaching out to her when she needs it. And you see this behavior surface more and more throughout the progression of the film. I'm sure you could see all these things as typical things celebrities do to maintain their public image. But one scene that I think kind of ties it all together is a scene where Sky is trying on a costume that is very revealing in the stomach area. She has a scar from her car accident that kind of runs up her stomach, up into her chest. And she flat out tells her team, I do not want to wear this costume. It's a sign of weakness, it's a sign of vulnerability, and it's a sign of imperfection. It's the same reason why she needs to fight through the pain and get stronger painkillers to prove outwardly that she's okay, while inside she's struggling. Hence, why the smile demon is so attracted to her and is taking so much pleasure in breaking her down and destroying her inside out. And it's too bad that she realizes that this is the problem maybe a bit too late. I think this movie brings great commentary that builds upon the mental health and addressing your trauma from the first movie, but then you also get to build upon themes about addiction and fame. And being in the public eye makes everything much more unique. I just listed all the things that Sky is doing to try to become a better person. And this demon almost acts like the court of public opinion. Like, how many times do people try to amend their ways, and not even in a PR stunt kind of way, but genuinely they want to make a change and become a better person, and yet we hold people's past transgressions over their heads. No matter how much he turns his life around, Justin Bieber is going to get made fun of by someone that reminds them, hey, you pissed in a mop bucket in the subway. And it doesn't necessarily just apply to people in the public light. The public light amplifies this because now it's not necessarily a private matter. And then there's the fear about being caught in a compromised situation. The whole reason Sky is at a drug dealer's apartment in the first place is because she wants to get a stronger painkiller so that her back pain does not hold her back from performing to the best of her abilities, so that she's free to do all these commitments. She's free to do the tour to the best of her abilities, not let down her fans, her staff. There's coke on the table in the drug dealer's apartment, and she's resisting it. She wants to be better. Here's Lucas Gage holding a bench press weight, and he smashes it into his face multiple times. And the egg crack sound just echoes throughout the movie. It's taunting her. And now there's a body on the floor, and it's leaking face fluid, and there's drugs all around. Even if she were to tell the truth, what does that look like? What would you do if you were the public and you saw an ex-addict in a room full of drugs? The fact that this demon is just so torturous, just like the public can be to its celebrities, it echoes really, really strong, and that's what stuck with me the most in this movie. Last time. So if anything is going to make you skeptical about Sky's overall personality, it's her inability to take responsibility. She hasn't really acknowledged the friction between her and Gemma. She hasn't addressed how she played a role in the car accident that killed her boyfriend. And then it's a bit more in your face when she leaves Lewis's dead body on the floor of his apartment. And again, it's because that she doesn't want to be caught in a drug dealer's apartment that she decides not to call 911 or call for help. She's trying to avoid as much controversy as possible. She even looks up to see if her vomit can be traced back to her. But these three interactions show a lack of care and a disconnect from others, especially when what they provide is benefits for Sky. This is ironic because she herself is willingly putting drugs into her system when she alone should be the one taking care of herself. There's times like these where the smile demon leans more specifically to guilt when it comes to the trauma spectrum. It's an interesting exploration just across the spectrum of trauma. I do want to talk about the end briefly, and I'm going to keep that spoiler free. Now, I did go to watch Smile 2 with a friend, and they're more versed in horror than I am. So they told me that they figured out this ending rather quickly. Me, on the other hand, I looked at the screen like a lost puppy. And then shit hit the fan, and that lost puppy started bumbling out.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah, I was completely fooled by the third act. And the visual effects in the last 5 minutes got me really, really good. There's a lot of body horror this fall movie season. Like, what's wrong with you directors? I don't know how you could write a better ending, but now my curiosity really stands with, where do you go from here, dude? Parker Finn, what do you do now that what happened has happened? It's safe to say that this movie is super effective overall.
It's super effective.
My biggest critique with the film really is just how mean and exhausting it ends up feeling overall. It makes the rewatchability wane a little bit for me because I kid you not, I needed to hibernate. I think maybe you could trim a little bit and make the movie a little bit tighter. And other than how formulaic it feels to the first movie, I think Smile 2 is completely awesome. Overall, y'all, if you liked the first Smile movie, I think you should watch the sequel. If you didn't like the first Smile movie, I think you should watch the sequel. Most people are coming out of this liking the sequel more than the first, if that gives you any pause. This is definitely one of the most jolting horrors of the year. I can't wait to see the rest of this franchise unfold. If this is the jump in quality from movie 1 to movie 2, imagine what three's gonna look like. I give Smile 2 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you for watching. My name is Kyle, and I'm still learning to fall in love with the medium of cinema. And if you want to join me on that journey with more rankings, deep dives, and reviews, hit subscribe, hit the bell, follow me on Letterboxd. Comment below if you've seen Smile 2. Do you prefer this movie? Do you prefer the first one? Are you downloading all of Sky Riley's songs on your playlist as we speak? Don't forget to like the video, and until next time, that's a wrap.